sarcasm in case you didn't grasp it. But yeah, I don't really talk about my feelings because I don't really have them. So in this video, I do not want sympathy. I do not feel bad about anything that has happened to me, nor am I lost, hurt, or at all like a kicked puppy. I have lived with this my entire life, and I am very content. If anything, if you get to know me, you will see I'm a very narcissistic person. So, I might as well start talking about certain things. I don't imagine this video is going to be very long, and I'm not going to go into detail about everything. First off, when I was younger, I had an abusive father who was addicted to heroin. My mother was in rehab in a way for a lot of the time when I was just a little child. Both my parents were, and still are, drug addicts. Now, my mother being away meant I had to stay with my abusive father. Now he lived in a crack house, so there was a bunch of people around me that were also drug users at the time. I was kidnapped by two people because my father owed them. I don't know if it was money, and I don't know if it was drugs. All I know is at the time I didn't know I was being kidnapped. They didn't hurt me. They didn't do anything mean to me at all. They were rather kind to me, but they still took me. As you see, I'm fine. The grandmother of one of the kidnappers ended up taking me back to my father. As years went on, my mom got out of rehab, and for that little stint in her life, she was sober, and she took me away from my father. And we moved around a lot. We haven't been in one place for a very long time, for a while. Now, my mother was not completely physically abusive. She hit me with a belt from time to time. But most of her problems was the fact that she verbally abused me. She would call me worthless and pathetic and treat me like crap for, I guess, a stint of my life. I was just a little thing when I was young. I was always the smallest in my class around that time. Well, we had an apartment for a while, and we lived next to this family because that's how apartments are. Well, I became friends with one of the people there, lived in the apartment. Well, needless to say, they were very bad people. They weren't at all what I would call good. They molested me for a long time. Back then I didn't know what they were doing. I was only a little kid. But they all took turns with me. As I got older, the realization kicked in of what really happened. But by then I think I was already changed as a person. Well, of course, for a while I fell into the wrong crowd. I was bullied to many kids. Now, I know what you're thinking. I bullied kids because I was hurt at home and I was in pain. No, that's not why I did it. I bullied kids because I liked watching others hurt. It wasn't because I was in pain and I wanted to hurt others. Now, there were many kids that I was fairly of seeing people in pain give me pleasure. It made me feel right, and at the time I saw nothing wrong with that. Well, as time progressed through my grade school, my mother's drug problem just got worse and worse, and by then, my father was in prison. So, she was on in and out of the hospital. Well, I missed so much school on the fact of her suicide attempts. There were a few times where I'd have to pull her out of the bathtub because she'd take a bunch of pills and then go into the bathroom and get a bath and try to kill herself. So, now my mother, she has fallen victim to a bad life. She was molested as a child. She was beaten and abused and mistreated in probably any way you can possibly think. She turned cold and became what she was because of the monsters in the world. Now, do I use that? Do I think that those people are a good reason and excuse for the way my mother acted? No, I do not. I've had horrible things happen to me. But I'm not about to become something evil towards the innocent because of that. But I was for a little bit. Well, because of all the school I missed and whatnot, because of what my mother was doing. Child services came into the house with the police one day, and they took me away. They were going to put me in an adoption or foster home, but my grandparents, who lived up on a farm, decided to take me. Now, my grandparents were lovely folk. My grandmother and my grandfather were very religious, devout Christians, and they went to church every Sunday. Living with them was probably the best times and moments of my life. They taught me the goodness in the world, and they tried putting me on a religious path, which I was. I became Christian for a long time, and I had escalated, and I began hurting them physically, bullying them, probably making a lot of their lives a living hell. I made many kids not even want to come out of their house. After school, this one kid would always run straight home when he got off the bus because he was afraid of me. He was afraid of me and my friends because of the way we would treat him and hurt him, torment him. Well, of course, things went like that for a while. I began finding local drug dealers, kids my age, a little bit older, and I would buy drugs from them, and I would sell them for a higher price. Sometimes a lowered price, depending on the person we were selling to. I would also get drugs from my mother and sell them to other people. Now, she was wasted most of the time because of all the prescription pills and everything else she took. She was rarely ever conscious of anything I did, and the house was an absolute wreck. Well, things went on. I stole from other people. I would steal people's bikes and whatnot, break them down, and sell the parts. I made really good money, actually. And then child services came back because, of course, I was missing school. And I got taken away back up to my grandmother's again. Well, by this time, I was no longer the nice little kid, and my grandparents had to move off their farm because the coal mine tore through their house. They bought the property, but they gave my grandparents about $500,000, so my grandparents had a decent amount of money to go buy a nice house in a very suburban country. Well, was a weird transition for me, being among the Christians, the suburban lifestyle, the khaki pants and whatnot. But again, I evolved. It was hard at first because I wasn't used to the change. after it was all over, and it was winter, so it was cold, but the ground felt warm for some reason. I walked home, and for the first time my mom actually looked at me all bloody and broken, and she took me to the hospital. I was in the hospital for a few days. As they x-rayed and everything, nothing was broken except for my teeth, and I had months and months of dental work, got them fixed. Well, after that, school was different. I went from bully to becoming the bullied. I was tormented, laughed at. Began to have PTSD filled nights. I stopped going outside. Stopped hanging out with anybody. I couldn't trust a single soul. And then my mom pulled me out of school. And by this time my mother stopped doing drugs. And I thought for a long time she would stay sober, and she did. 2 years she was sober. I had therapy, had everything else. Nothing was getting to me until after a few violent outbreaks at school. That's why I had to be homeschooled, actually. It was just bullying. After a while, I started so many fights that I kinda had no other choice. But I got sent to a private school, a Catholic private school. That place would change me. It was hard to adapt to such a life, but I did. I spent a few years there, and then I went to a different one. I went to a high school, and that's where I am now. Now, I skipped a lot of things, minor details of things, but I will tell you, as the years went on, I'm going to be 18 next month. Life has been pretty good for me for at least 3 years. I haven't. A lot of the kids I've bullied are actually pretty close friends of mine now. Because I apologized. I don't feel bad for what I did to them, but I know what I did was wrong. I do not use my past as an excuse for anything I have done. I do not accept people using their past as an excuse for the actions of the present or the actions of the future. Because we all know the difference between right and we all know the difference between wrong. And the entire time I was doing all of this, I knew what I was doing was wrong, and I liked it very much. I have fixed a lot of the things I have done. I started going to the gym. I began working out. I got a job. And now instead of hurting people that are innocent and don't deserve it, I hurt the ones who do. I met my father again last year. And I punched him in the face. maybe someone they care about needs their help and they have to do bad things for them. And then there are evil people. Evil people do bad things because they like it. It brings them pleasure to be sadistic and hurt the innocent. And that's why I know I'm not evil. Because out of all the serial killers in the world, I will never understand why they hurt innocent people when there are so many bad people in this world who deserve death. Now, as to the pedophiles that lived next to me in the apartment, one of them are dead, and the others, I think, have moved far away, and they've got to be knocking on death's door as we speak. And it's a good thing they are gone and that I can't find them, because if I could, I probably wouldn't be here. You see, I do not feel the need for revenge. I feel the need to avenge. I am not upset with anybody who has hurt me, but I am upset because they could have hurt other people. I have ran across other people that I figured out were pedophiles, were rapists, were abusers and whatnot, and I have handled them, scared them, threatened them. I've never killed them, because we all know that that is just a roleplay I do, and whether you believe that I've actually done that or not, you don't have to. It's really not my problem what you believe. Like I said, we all have our stories. This one's mine. Life is good for me at the moment, and I think that life is going to get better. I am not hurt. I do not cry. I do not feel bad or hurt or anything. I am fine. I can promise I do not need the sympathy that you might think I need. I am not this way because of the way the world has treated me. I am this way because I want to be this way. And who knows, maybe one day I'll change and find that little child inside me again who brings joy to the world. But even if I'm cold and dead inside, I will still be helping anybody who needs help. Because I am not someone who likes to hurt people who doesn't deserve to be hurt. You might think I'm cold, you might even think I'm a little messed up. And if so, I don't care. But maybe you understand me. If anything, I would imagine most of my subscribers are on the dark side of the life because they have experienced the darkness. They know what it's like. Now, this video is very depressing for probably most. Not for me, I'm perfectly content, but maybe for you guys. So, to change the subject, I'm going to make a video. I might have already said this in a past video. I'm going to be making a video explaining the sociopath series and the psychopath series and whatnot to people who might not completely understand